to noon.
Ooh. What in the ham fat is going on with you guys?
You think it's funny? You lucky suckers.
Oh my God! Kirk Cousins!
What you just said.
Welcome back to the show.
I gotta turn this down, Bob.
Holy Toledo!
You're breaking up, Bob.
You're breaking up.
Neighborhood Bean, FM 100.3, KFAN. Nordo, good morning.
Good morning, man.
FM 100.3, KFAN. What do the kids call it?
KFAN.
After a brief respite, ladies and gentlemen, we have some hot local sporting activity tonight. The Minnesota Timberwolves are at the Indiana Pacers, and the Minnesota Wild are at the Arizona Coyotes. One team will be without Karl Anthony Towns, the other without much hope of making the playoffs. Karl Anthony Towns has a torn meniscus and is out indefinitely. What happened to learning Wednesday Cat was going to be out, knee soreness, thinking it low-key was exactly what Chris Finch does not like to do, but giving players rest days. We went from a perceived rest day and resting the knee to Cat has a torn meniscus, and he's out indefinitely. Talk about a kick in the old dream weaving.
Well, even within yesterday, PA, you're talking to the coach, and in some ways he seems unaffected by the post-All-Star break, 40% shooting overall, 32% from three. It's all good. I believe in Cat. To the knee soreness and the potentially taking the night off to now the news surrounding the meniscus. Even within a day yesterday, I'm thinking to myself, it's all good. We're going to go down there. You know what? Cat's going to bounce back because he's going to have to take 9 threes because it's Halliburton and the high-scoring Pacers that play no defense.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking it's a bounce back for the kitty cat. And now the knee. And now the soreness. But this is curious to me, PA. Let me do this for you. In regard to the knee soreness, the torn meniscus. Shams Charania of The Athletic. And you saw this report as well. Minnesota Timberwolves All-Star Karl Anthony Towns diagnosed with a torn meniscus in his left knee. He's out indefinitely, sources tell The Athletic. But then you go to ESPN, competing entity.
Come on.
Competing for the insider work.
Woj, Shams, Woj.
It's a heat. It's a dead photo finish at the wire.
Really?
But here's from Woj. Timberwolves star Karl Anthony Towns has suffered a left meniscus injury. But it remains unclear how much, if any, time he'll be required to miss. Towns and the team are working to get a full understanding of the degree of the injury and whether it demands immediate action. So we have competing forces here, PA. We have injury to the meniscus versus torn meniscus. We have out indefinitely versus unclear how much of any time he'll miss. We have diagnosed versus working to get full understanding. It's very cloudy on a Thursday morning in the 651 Carpets Plus Studios, PA. This meniscus is negative.
Well, I mean, beginning today, no matter if it's torn or if it's damaged or if it's tattered or if it's battered or if he's gone for a week or if he's gone for a year. Dust off the game-worn Nas Reed jerseys, ladies and gentlemen, because the opportunity of a lifetime has arrived. Cat, meniscus, Finchie's bunch, now an MV2 with Edwards and Gobert, and it was kind of an MV2.5 in the first place. That news, which dropped this morning, plays perfectly into the somewhat gloomy theme 9 to noon has had this week. Unintentionally, we're just pontificating and or reporting on the news. This week on 9 to noon, the conversations mostly have surrounded being without and losing hope. It's like we've been without local sports for a hot tick, and Wild fans may be losing hopes on playoff opportunities. Maybe Howl Nation is starting to lose hope because of this Karl Anthony Towns news. I don't happen to be one on that bandwagon who is losing that much hope, but we can talk about that later. But that's kind of been the common thread this week, 9 to noon. The word without and the words losing hope. Losing hope, the quarterback with whom we are familiar will indeed play at U.S. Bank Stadium next season, but will do so wearing black and red. It's not confirmed, might not even happen, but it's been speculation central this week, and it has enveloped the 9 to noon presentation. How much Timberwolves hope has been thwarted due to this Towns tear or this Towns meniscus news? Well, there's only one way to solve it, Eric. Time to dust off the old talkback machine.
I was waiting for you to say that. I was waiting.
With local football, we've mashed on about every angle. Cousins stays, Cousins goes, Fields in play, why Fields should not be in play. Get Russ on a ham sandwich deal and show the anti-Vike how to properly coach up a Hall of Famer and win a bunch of games. Maybe take the Denver Sports Radio approach to quarterbacking and roll with old Jameis Winston. Old Jameis Winston. So if you lose, at least you go down having a good time. What does everybody out there think? Let's make it a thirsty Thursday. Let's make it a thirsty Thursday. Thirsty in that we are ready to get drunk on your Cousins, quarterbacks, and what's next plan takes. Let's hear what you have to say. I mean, like, there it is. People have spoken. Maybe you're like, Cat, no Carl, no chance. Football, no Cousins, no chance. Let's do it all via the Talkback feature in the free iHeartRadio app. Eric Nordquist produces 9 to noon and is going to walk the dedicated Covenant dwellers through proper utilization of this game-changing Talkback feature. And good morning.
Just blowing the dust off that Talkback manual that was presented to us a couple of years ago by the corner office. All you got to do if you're listening on the app, hit that microphone next to the play or stop button on the app. You'll see it. It's quite prominent. And then you just give us up to, again, there's a limit, 30 seconds.
Yep.
Up to your best 30 seconds.
Yep.
And be as passionate. Talk about what you just heard from the host. Teams that are lacking or fans that are lacking belief, whether it's in how the general manager will operate with the decisions on quarterbacks, wide receivers, edge rushers, and draft picks. Oh my. How a hoops team will operate. Are you lacking or having belief in moving forward without one of the supposed big three? All of those things. Hit the microphone, free iHeartRadio app as we move forward on a thirsty Thursday morning.
Free iHeartRadio app, talk back now. Matt, producer, will drop them in whenever. But at 11 a.m., we're going to play back a bunch. Kill us with kindness, kill us with controversy, kill us with thoughts on Cousins and the what's next plan your mind just cannot eliminate. Kill us with the cat conundrum. Howl Nation just has to have something to say about that and say about this? Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, truly, whatever you'd like to submit is fine. But the biggest talker and the most popular involves the future of Kirk Cousins. And the 1A, as of about 30 minutes ago, became Karl Anthony Towns, out indefinitely due to some knee-related terrorism. We have 90 seconds left in this segment. Let's fade the music and fire up this and see what you think. Good morning. It's 9 to noon. Rookie quarterbacks. Came across this morning. Chris Sims is a former quarterback and co-host of PFT Live with Mike Florio. He analyzes quarterbacks for profit. His top 6 quarterbacks.
Oh, tell me he ranked them.
Top 6 quarterbacks ranked by Chris Sims. In order, go 1, Caleb Williams. 2, Jaden Daniels. 3, Bo Nix. 3, Bo Nix. 3, Bo Nix. 4, Michael Penix Jr. 5, J.J. McCarthy. 6, Drake May. Bottom to top. May, J.J., 4 major injuries, 6 years of college football, Jaden, and Caleb Williams. Williams, back to pass, fires left, caught DJ Moore, first down. Foregone conclusion. The others aren't. Amazing. Amazing here with this. Bo Nix third is outside of the box. But 9 to noon appreciates outside of the box, whether we agree or not. So you can rank your rookie quarterbacks via the super special talkback if you are so inclined. Bo Nix third, you say. 6 years of college football and the belief there's untapped talent there. Okay. McCarthy's the one I'd love to see around here, unleashing untapped talent for profit on the fan. Penix is super steamy, got super steamy after the combine. Forgot to share this with you early in the week. But Rick Camley, he dined his finest next to Marty Fish. Well, he does NBA radio on Sirius XM, but he also does a Saturday show on a channel called Mad Dog Radio. So he asked me to come on Saturday, and we had about a 20-minute confab on Mad Dog Radio. And now Ricky watches a lot of college football. He lives down Florida way, where college football's more important and more popular than it is here in the cornfields. And with our dear friend, he's super negative on J.J. McCarthy and Spencer Rattler. I mean, like my 1A, he asked me what I thought. I'm like, hey, you just got back from the combine. Here's all the information. And then he was like, negatory, but that's fine.
Well, Penix had a terrific workout. Nobody's ever going to question Penix's arm. Right. It's going to be, can he stay upright and healthy for an extended period of time?
And it doesn't mean Freaky Ricky has to be right, but he watches a lot, and it's part of the brain boggling we endure this time of the year.
Mad Dog Radio, though.
Right now, it is so rich and meaty and juicy and succulent and thick. These talkers are good enough to eat. Talk back now via the free iHeartRadio app. You know why I looked at you? Even though the audience couldn't see?
Why is that?
I wanted to see the expression on the countenance of Mad Producer after hearing rich, meaty, juicy, succulent, and thick.
Makes me uncomfortable when you use those words.
Those are the adjectives to properly describe the talkers.
They do work.
But get your mind out of the gutter, biatch. Talk now via the free iHeartRadio app. TimberTech.com. Thank you. Love you. So what's up in the neighborhood? Atlanta Falcons play-by-play voice Wes Durham, 9:35. Nacho Lieber, 10. Gophers hockey coach Bobby Motzko at about 10:45. Talk back, playback, talk back. That time takes place at 11. Then a Russo Radio from Zona around 11:15. And a Wolves Radio Vox Allen Horton from Indiana, the final segment. Let's play. Let's pray. The Love Covenant is in the air. And Vikes Bites are next.
Cousins. They should have signed him when they had the chance for lower money. The last thing I want to see is Mr. Unlimited come in here with his attitude and his BS and really bring this team down.
Mr. Unlimited. That's a sample of the talkbacks via the free iHeartRadio app. Thank you very much for your submission. And we're going to play a bunch back at 11 o'clock, so we will file them like squirrels storing metaphorical nuts. We welcome you back to the 9 to noon presentation at FM 100.3 KFAN. These are Vikes Bites, provided by
Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed grass-fed beef. Go to thousandhillslifetimegrazed.com and learn all about regenerative agriculture. Learn about a local company, Clearwater, Minnesota born, and expanded so greatly since then. And really, above all else, if you're just thinking, I want to eat awesome meat, well, then go to thousandhillslifetimegrazed.com and you can shop online. And barbecue pork, barbecue brisket proceeds goes to support Dinkytown athletes. They're trying to keep local athletes here in Minnesota. I love that too. Thousand Hills. I want to start here. It's again a mashup of Vikings, bites, and free agency fodder as well. Is this the year of shedding safeties, PA? So bear with me a moment. Jordan Poyer, he's gone from the Bills. Micah Hyde, in his 30s.
Hold on.
Yes.
So to not get this horizontal terrorism, I need landscape or portrait.
You need to do portrait.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So
sorry to intrude.
It's all good. Micah Hyde is a free agent. The Broncos have just released Justin Simmons, and that's going to open up $14.5 million in cap space for the Broncos when we know they have some cap-related issues.
That's kind of a big one.
Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs both gone from the Seahawks. That'll save the team collectively about $17 million. And Jamal Adams, by the way, he's been a money pit for the most part for the Hawks.
Yeah.
But overall, you'll see the route I'm going here. Eddie Jackson is gone from the Bears. Kevin Byard is now a free agent. Formerly Pro Bowler, all-pro quality safety, I think, in Tennessee. Then he just did a gun-for-hire bit in Philly. Deshaun Gibson, familiar name, longtime safety. Kareem Jackson, formerly a Bronco, then a Houston Texan. Now he's a UFA.
And then a Dobbs killer.
Yeah, absolutely. Tracy Walker and C.J. Gardner-Johnson are UFAs. Darnell Savage from the Packers is a UFA. Your guy, Jaron Curse, is going to be a UFA. Buda Baker could be released from the Cards to save $15 million. They could potentially trade him. There's a club option-related bit happening down there and a lot of questions about his future there. And Harrison Smith, potentially. The year of shedding safeties.
Yep.
If you look at that list, PA, and you think about free agency periods, let's just put it 5-6 years ago, all of those guys, for the most part, highly touted, a lot of them high-end draft picks, a ton of generational safety equity out on the open market, and Vikings fans still questioning what's up with our guy, number 22.
As am I, and I'm eagerly awaiting whatever decision will be made with Harrison Smith. I mean, what are the levels to unpack here? No decision. Give him exactly what the contract looks like, and he starts. Try to restructure something for a second consecutive year, and do that, and he starts. Try to get together with him on something and he doesn't acquiesce, or you feel the ending near the end of the season, the final X amount of games of the season weren't that great for old Hitman, and you cut him. So those, I mean, I guess you could trade him too, but that's not going to happen. So shedding the safeties. Who knew? Justin Simmons, Quandre Diggs, Jamal Adams can't cover the pass. No, thank you. Right now, Smith, Bynum, Metellus, Jay Ward, year 2, and what you can do with that Swiss Army knife, and the draft and free agency. Only time will tell, baby.
Vikes Bites!
Vikes Bites.
And free agency fodder. I got this text message amid everything we were talking about, lacking faith in the quarterback situation moving forward, lacking belief as the Wolves try to recover from this recent Karl Anthony Towns news. Well, somebody texted in, they're like, hey, you guys aren't talking about the kicker and the punter enough.
Right.
So let me ask you this. Greg Joseph is an upcoming free agent, PA.
Yeah.
He was 7 of 13 from 40-plus last year, 3 of 6 from 40, and then I think it was 4 of 7 or something like that from 50-plus. He was 30th in field goal make percentage among those that made most of the dances last year. He is a free agent. You cool with running it back with Greg? Do you think that inside we have special teams coordinator with general manager and scouts maybe trying to see if they can upgrade that position in 2024?
Well, first and foremost with the punter, they started working on the directional piece with him last year, and at times it wasn't great, but then it got better as the season continued.
He ain't heavy. He's a punter.
Yeah, I'm fine with Joseph returning. I don't mind Greg Joseph as kicker, but maybe this year the Minnesota Vikings will be one of those super swanky teams that reaches way up in the draft and takes a kicker on Friday. Maybe we're one of those teams that shocks the world and takes a kicker on Friday.
When was Seabass taken? Was he wasn't a first rounder, was he?
First round.
Oh, come on with
well,
that.
yeah, but I mean, if I tell you
17th overall.
If I tell you you're going to get 20 years or whatever you're going to get out of Sebastian Janikowski, there however long he played,
Hey, he played 18 or 19 seasons.
I still wouldn't take him in the first round.
Correct.
I'd trade back to the second and take him 41st. You kidding me? What kind of a move was that? Jeez, Al, what the hell are you doing here?
Vikes Bites! And free agency fodder. So with all those tags we talked about earlier in the week, Josh Allen and Brian Burns, Justin Matabuke, the interior guy for the Ravens, all those guys getting the tags. Well, that means Danielle Hunter is going to be the most sought-after edge rusher at this point in free agency as it unfolds next week. Christian Wilkins fans, well, you're hoping Chris Jones draws a lot of suitors, so maybe under the cover of darkness, Kwesi can sneak in there and get Wilkins a nice fat deal and bring him in purple. But the key here is I've been seeing a ton of people talking about a Jets edge rusher named Bryce Huff. Have you heard of that name, PA? Because it's been thrown at me several times over the last week, and I want to know more about him.
Yeah.
Now, Robert Saleh's defense, I believe he's actually a base 4-3 guy, and Huff didn't start. He only played 42% of the snaps in 2023, 480 total. He had 10 sacks, PA. So terrific production from a guy that was more of a rotation edge rusher in that particular setup. But he had 7.5 sacks his previous 3 seasons. So contract year blow up or legitimate growth. And Pro Football Focus ranked Huff as the number 4 edge rusher in the free agent class. So if he doesn't re-sign with the Jets, then he's in that conversation that I was mentioning with Brian Burns and Josh Allen and Danielle Hunter. So they're saying, according to PFF, Bryce Huff could command somewhere between 13 and 18 million per season compared to how other edge rushers across the league get paid. And just throwing numbers out there, that feels, if Danielle's at 25-ish, I mean, he's going to be in that vicinity.
Yep.
Well, obviously that is a significant discount. So he's not going to make the Nick Bosa money, but mid-teens. And the projection here, 4 years, $65 million on a contract with any team in free agency. Bryce Huff, maybe someone to put on your radar in terms of if Danielle's gone, an answer at the pass rushing spot.
You must not have watched the New York Jets much last year, young man.
No, I did not.
Well, they did not play a 4-3 base. They played a 3-2 base because their defense was so bad they found themselves only with 10 players on the field.
I always love that one.
Most plays. So it was unique, and it revolutionized to a certain extent defense in the NFL. But it looked like a 4-3, but it was actually a 3-2 because they always only had, we don't have enough men out there. No! What I like about Bryce Huff and what I like about that take is cost effective, but potential game changer sliding into a defense where position flexibility is in vogue. So into last year, ain't nobody saying, before we watched the Flores defense unfurl during the course of the year. Not many were saying Harrison Phillips sitting on best season of his career. Likewise for Daniil.
Right.
Likewise for Josh Metellus. Likewise to a certain extent, Jordan Hicks too, for sure. I mean, before he got hurt. I mean, there's a handful of players who played DJ Wanham, played better than they've ever played because of the position in which they were put. So the MO on Flores before he got here was he has an uncanny way of taking the middling, those of the middling variety, and getting them good. Those who are good and getting them very good. Those who are very good, getting them great-ish, and so on and so on.
I like that.
So, Bryce Huff, welcome to the Covenant, if indeed that is the maneuvering.
So let me hit you with this one more quick thing, and then we'll jump to Wes Durham, Atlanta Falcons Vox.
Okay.
Chris Sims, who listed Caleb Williams into Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Michael Penix, J.J. McCarthy, and Drake May as his sixth-ranked quarterback. A couple of texters have chimed in to note that, well, his 2021 quarterback rankings were number 1, Zach Wilson, then Trevor Lawrence, then Mac Jones. His 2021 fourth-best quarterback, Kellen Mond, and then Justin Fields and Trey Lance. So,
what were they in 2022?
Rankings, well, that wasn't included, and I don't feel like
good.
They were probably perfect. Absolutely.
When 9 to noon continues, speaking of quarterbacks, let's go down Atlanta way and chat with Wes Durham, the play-by-play voice for the Atlanta Falcons. That's right. We're going to talk with somebody in the belly of the beast. Atlanta, Georgia, the Peach State, where potentially, from a veteran quarterback standpoint locally, things ain't that peachy. We'll go Vox to Vox around the corner at FM 100.3 KFAN. Here comes my main man, Wes Durham, 20-year play-by-play voice for the Atlanta Falcons. Wesley, it's Paul Allen. How have you been, my brother?
Paul Allen, ladies and gentlemen. In March, that must mean we're going to talk about speculation. Are we going to swim in the speculation pool right here? Is that what we're going to do?
There are so many changes in college football and basketball that the more things change, the more they stay the same. It's just the ways and means become rearranged. So actually, assuming North Carolina still is in the ACC, the Atlantic Coast Conference, and you're an elite ACC mind on all levels, maybe we called you to validate the Tar Heels' opportunity to win the national championship.
No, you didn't.
Okay.
No, that's not why we called.
All right, well, maybe we called to see how good Acuna's going to be this year and if he's like the next Hank Aaron in Major League Baseball.
That's not why you called.
How's Trae Young? Is he going to be out long? And has DeJounte Murray really picked up the slack since he got hurt?
Hey, I just heard Cat's got a knee injury.
Yeah. Everything's so controversial. But
why do we really call PA?
Well,
why do we really call?
That's the A topic, and we're going to get to it momentarily because I seriously want to know what college basketball games you have called of late for ESPN or the ACC network, because I know you do that with college football and basketball, and you're quite good at it. But like, have you seen any? Have you seen any really good teams of late?
I've seen North Carolina.
Ooh.
Saw them Tuesday night beat Notre Dame.
Ooh.
I think North Carolina is capable. Mm-hmm. I think the two. I hate to say this, Paul. I really do believe UConn and Purdue are probably the two best teams going to the tournament. I would throw Tennessee in there.
Really?
I would. I really like Tennessee. I think
amazing.
Tennessee's capable. And I think Arizona's capable. But if you held, mortgage money to my head right now, I would tell you UConn, who beat Marquette last night in Milwaukee, I thought they were impressive. Purdue has been steady most of the year. Mm-hmm. And at some point, as you know in sports, people are due. And Matt Painter is due. And I know it hasn't gone well in the tournament. I know it's, you lose to Fairleigh Dickinson, you lose to Florida Atlantic. I mean, I know. I see how that happens. But I saw Virginia lose to UMBC and then turn around the next year and win the national title in Minneapolis. So
holy cow.
I think it's capable. I think Purdue is capable of really doing some damage once that field is announced. But again, you can't prospect the tournament for real until you see the bracket and the path they've got to go.
Wes Durham, elite play-by-play voice for the Atlanta Falcons, also college football and basketball for the ACC Network and ESPN. I think he does Sirius satellite radio work, and you've called a million of them. So let me ask you this: what do you enjoy more, college football or basketball, and why?
Well, I do believe that, you and I are so blessed because we get to see the world's greatest athletes play the world's most entertaining sport on Sundays, right? I mean, it's amazing what we get to see on Sundays. But the passion and the pageantry and the tradition and the history of college football is unique. And because it lasts 100 years all over the country. In our part of the world here in the Southeast, professional football is not that old. So it's a different vibe here, for the most part. But college football on a Saturday in the fall, I mean, and when we get a little crisp in the air here in the Southeast in like late October, November, there's something different about a Saturday night in college football or a Saturday afternoon. And it's kind of the way I grew up, so I'm probably partial to it a little bit. Now, college basketball in the ACC has always been a staple.
Yeah.
And so like next week when I'm in Washington, D.C. doing the Atlantic Coast Conference basketball tournament, it's an event I grew up around. And so it has an emotional tie to me that very few things that I've ever done do. So, but it's, like I say, if we can still feel the adrenaline of playing by broadcasting, I'm able to touch some of those buttons during the year for sure.
Just for a hot tick before the obvious.
Down memory lane we go.
I'm 19 days older than you. Okay. And when looking at your bio this morning, assuming Wikipedia is right, I'm 19 days older than you. So we're the same age, man. And I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area.
Yep.
And so therefore it's like 78, 79-ish. We're like 11, 12, 13. Do you remember how significant the Sunday night ACC game of the week was? And I can't remember if like Nick Charles called it or Lefty Drizel was coach of the Terrapins. Dean Smith running that Four Corners with UNC. But I mean, whether it's Hawkeye Whitney coming out of DeMatha High School in D.C. and going to NC State, Phil Ford palming the ball every time he dribbled. Then you get to Kupchak, Spanarkel, Jaminski, and but there were so few options back then that when that Sunday night ACC game of the week came on, holy cow, was that big.
Yep. Sunday afternoons, and then they did one on Super Bowl Sunday. It was usually Maryland State in the mid-'70s. Then it became State Carolina for a few years.
Yeah.
Then it went to Duke and State. I mean, the Super Bowl Sunday games are unbelievable. Oh, yeah, that was before the proliferation of television. That's when, Jim Thacker, Billy Packer did the C.D. Chesley Sail with the Pilot game, those type deals. And, you grew up in an area in the DMV and in Baltimore, Washington area where, Maryland had John Lucas, Len Elmore, Tom McMillan. Then it went to
Buck Williams.
And then it went to Buck Williams. It went to Albert King.
Yep.
Ernest Graham. Ultimately, Len Bias, Adrian Branch. I mean, it was just a fantastic piece of history in the ACC. And when Lefty passed away a couple weeks ago, PA, I got to tell you, I mean, it was an emotional thing for a lot of people in the league.
Yeah.
Who remember what Lefty Drizel meant to so many. And he was such a character. I mean, I got to meet him, when I was still doing Georgia Tech, and he, in the later part of his career, was coaching at Georgia State. And every time he'd see me, he'd go, "Hey, you and your daddy and I were friends, and I need to talk to you about getting Paul Hewitt at Georgia Tech to play me." And I'm like, "Come on, coach, I can't pull that off." "Oh, come on, your dad and I were friends. Do me a favor," that kind of thing.
Down memory lane we go.
Well, your father
those kinds of things are awesome.
Your father, correct me if I'm wrong here, Woody Durham, called it was Tar Heels basketball forever, right?
Football and basketball for 40 years, 1971 to 2011 when he retired.
Damn, he called Lawrence Taylor wearing the baby blue.
Yep.
That's sweet.
98, Lawrence Taylor. I never knew Lawrence Taylor as a 56 until he started making money in the NFL.
Right.
He was always number 98 as an outside linebacker in the 3-4 defense for Dick Crum in Carolina.
All right, a topic. Wes Durham, play-by-play voice, Atlanta Falcons. He's done it for a couple of decades. Love when I get a chance to see him down Peach State Way or when he comes up here to U.S. Bank Stadium like he will this year.
Yeah.
What's the pro football temperature like down there? Is everybody waiting for the first shoe to drop and perhaps Kirk Cousins being the 2024 Atlanta Falcons quarterback?
Yeah. It is. It's come down to that now. I mean, they're doing some of the paperwork they've got to do with the roster around it. But the reality of it is, Paul, the missing piece in this whole puzzle a year ago, and I think the position that kept them out of the postseason was quarterback. You know, look, they ran the race with Desmond Ridder. Okay, they did what they should have done. They started him late in 22. They gave him the ball in 23. Got off to a 2-0 start. You beat Green Bay in week 2. You feel pretty good about where you are, and then all of a sudden it starts to wobble, and then the turnover thing starts happening. And so there's no question they got to sort the quarterback thing out. I do think there was the romantic interest in potentially Justin Fields, who's from here, potentially being delivered by Chicago. I'm just not sure that I think that deal's a little too strong to drink right now. I think Chicago may want to try and, pull a Herschel Walker trade or whatever. And Atlanta doesn't have that kind of inventory or that kind of margin of error. Now, Kirk is going to be 36 when the season starts, coming off an injury. Is he a guy that fits what Zach Robinson, who's Raheem Morris's new offensive coordinator, does he fit? Yeah, he looks like the guy that would kind of be a nice piece here to go with Robinson and Pitts and London and an offensive line that's pretty sturdy. So we'll see. I think, it's been interesting. I had no idea until about 4 days ago. His wife is from Atlanta. She graduated from Georgia. I didn't know he was a member. I think he has a house here already.
What?
Or has a golf club membership here already. So I've heard a lot of things in the last 3 days about Kirk Cousins that I didn't know other than he being a pretty damn good quarterback in the league.
Yeah, but I mean, the house piece, I mean, their Florio at ProFootballTalk.com dropped a nugget early in the week that he's house hunting. I mean, you're not saying like he already has one.
No, I've heard things in the last 3 days like he's got a golf club membership in Johns Creek. He's had it for a couple of years, as I understand, because a friend of mine's a member of the same club, and he called me yesterday and said, "Hey, by the way, Cousins is a member here," and I'm like, "What?" He said, "Oh yeah, has been for a couple of years."
Oh,
and then,
that's
as I understand it, that's where his wife is from, the Johns Creek area. So if that's the case, then some of this has a little bit more symmetry. And I think the thing about him is this: I think he's, as you well know, I mean, capable and above average play at that spot in this league is a value commodity. And so therefore, that makes him attractive on the free agent market to a lot of people, in particular, the place he was, Minnesota, and certainly in Atlanta, who needs to fill that gap before really the league year kind of gets cranked up with OTAs and all that stuff.
Well, Wes, Vox, I don't know how often or if ever you chat with Mr. Blank, but maybe Mr. Blank finds the speedy young Justin Fields to be dynamic, and he's like, hey, Bijan's fast, Kyle Pitts, a little bit of an underachieving act, but nevertheless, he's fast. Drake's fast. Right. You get that quarterback with all that speed, break the pocket. Everybody wants a multifaceted quarterback who can run and pass. Maybe the owner is infatuated with Justin Fields.
Well, and it could be. That's the part about this, though. But here's the game that I've always been fascinated about in the NFL, right? And you know what I mean by this, because you've seen it happen in Minnesota, and we've seen it happen at other franchises with other colleagues in this business. Okay, so you're sitting in that office, and you're the GM, the owner, the president of the team, whatever capacity you have there, right? And you have to measure three different things here. One, the salary cap. Two, not just the salary cap for 24, but the salary cap moving forward, plus the rosters, the bonuses, the contracts, all those things that come into play, right? Then you have to counter, if you're going to make this trade, let's say with Fields, you got to factor in him coming off the rookie deal, what his value is going to be, what is that going to be the cost to your team, measured to the draft inventory and whatever other considerations Chicago may want. Okay, so free agent money for Cousins, trade value for Fields, inventory lost in your own draft, plus your salary cap moving forward. It's a tricky damn deal when you think about it, Paul. I mean, it really is it's a consequential decision, clearly, but it's also one that comes with what I think is inherent risk. And in 20 years of doing the Falcons, and I'm sure with the many years you've done Minnesota, that's a pretty complicated measure and a complicated guess that makes it a hypothesis more than it makes it exact at times, right?
Right. Well, I mean, correct. But hypothetically speaking, I mean, teams put themselves in position to do certain things like this. But what's tricky here is your Birds have the 8 spot overall. Now the Vikings are at 11. So I mean, it's like you absolutely could draft one there in what seems to be, at least through 6, maybe 7 of them, a pretty deep quarterbacks draft, at least for Thursday and maybe early on Friday. And then you ain't got to deal with all that cash-related stuff. Or I'm going to put the Fields thing to the side for a second because I like how you laid that out, Wes, is that, okay, so you get him and then you got to pay. But then, when he heads into his next deal, I mean, that's going to be a fat ticket right there, and it may compromise you in different spots. So with Cousins, and it costs to get Kirk Cousins, but it's probably going to be 2, maximum 3 years. I mean, think about it. If you guys get Cousins, then you can use that 8th pick on what? An offensive line. You probably could get the best offensive lineman or second best, at least from perception standpoint, and then move forward after that. I mean, that's juicy enough to eat right there, Wes.
It is, but it's also, hey, by the way, you need another pass rusher, and Dallas Turner of Alabama might be sitting there at 8.
Uh-oh. Yeah, that'd be nice. Hey, how many Drake May games did you call? A bunch?
In 2 years, about 7.
Ooh. What do you think of Drake?
I think he's the best quarterback in the draft.
Wow. And for what reason?
I think he's got, now the one thing I will say, first of all, I've heard that Merrill Hodge says he's not athletic, and I like Merrill. I don't know him very well, and certainly respect his playing career, but Merrill Hodge didn't watch him play. Right. He doesn't think he's athletic.
Really?
I think he's pro-ready, Paul. I think the one thing he'll have to learn is there's some, because he tends to run with it, and he ran for over 1,000 yards in his career, I think people will have to, quarterback coaches in the NFL are going to want to look at his footwork a little bit. But in terms of the throwing and the mechanics to throw, my goodness. I mean, it comes out of his hand. It's not Matthew Stafford or the old Bucs quarterback Josh Freeman who could bore a hole in a wall when he throws it. But Drake May can make all the throws. And I think he's a guy who's got a chance to have a really, really long career because he's bright and he will be a terrific face of the franchise for whoever drafts him. And I think Jaden Daniels is the next best quarterback behind Drake May. I'm not as sold on Caleb Williams as some of the other people are. I see things there that make me uncomfortable if I were taking him about his career at Southern California. And he could prove to be the best of them all, but I'm just a little uncomfortable with Caleb Williams as opposed to what I think Daniels and May are going to be at the next level. And
with Josh Freeman, because we had a very brief time with Josh Freeman here, you're right. I mean, he throws the ball with the power that indeed he can throw it through a wall on your street, the next block, the next county, and the next state.
I always love that one.
And then when you go into the locker room to ask him about it, you have to navigate around his snakes.
I always love that one.
So we digress. Hey, I never asked you this, and whenever the Vikings and Falcons play, we'll generally text up to it, talk up to it, text after it. But I don't think I asked you this last year because the delirium was just had my and everybody's head spinning so much. But what did you think of that Josh Dobbs rabbit out of the hat trick the Vikings pulled on your Falcons last year? Never saw it coming, right?
No. And a kid from Alpharetta, Georgia had a homecoming game.
Right.
And we've seen that happen before in the building, but, man, he had a homecoming game. My gosh. I mean, if Josh Dobbs never takes another snap in the National Football League, he has a moment for the rest of his career.
Yeah.
And good for him.
And
I don't hate a kid that has a moment. I mean, we had it with a Packers running back my first or second year doing the games named Sam Congato. Never heard from again after he had 100 yards in the Georgia Dome. But I was happy for Josh Dobbs because I thought he was a talented kid, certainly out of high school, and had a, above average career at Tennessee, and had kind of been a nomadic guy in the National Football League. But an amazing 72 hours for Josh Dobbs, to say the least, huh? Golly, Pete.
Well,
and Atlanta couldn't tackle him. All of a sudden, he's like Lamar Jackson back there. Nobody could get him on the ground, and it drove Archer crazy sitting next to me, PA. But I was like, holy cow, this Josh Dobbs is setting this building on its ear today.
Unbelievable, the Dobbs delirium that day, and that cool touchdown run. I think on fourth down was like right in front of us. With where the Vox boxes are now. Wes, just time for a couple more. With all the Cousins steam and the Cuz buzz and everything like that, Fields, whatever draft. I mean, it's so the Desmond Ridder dream is just dead down there, isn't it?
I think he's on the roster, but I don't think he's the starting quarterback. I think however they get a quarterback in here, I think that guy's going to be the lead guy. And if it's Cousins, it's an automatic, because I think he and Zach Robinson and Raheem Morris are all kind of cut from the same cloth here a little bit. And tell you what, I really like the staff Raheem has put together. He kept some guys who were here with Arthur Smith that I thought were outstanding coaches, and he's built around that group with his own, and I'm pretty excited to see where this goes, especially with Robinson. And you can't argue with those McVay guys that come off that tree in LA now, Paul. I mean, they all kind of come from the big Shanahan house, I guess, but at the same time, these guys that have come out from Los Angeles have seemingly done a really, really good job across the board.
Any last one here, Wes? Thanks for the time.
Sure.
The Falcons fans, and I don't know how often you look at Twitter, or as the kids call it, X, or listen to sports radio or whatever, but any pulse on what Falcons fans think about all this Cuz buzz and stuff like that? Like, are they flooding the sports radio talkbacks begging for Cousins or Fields? I mean, has it piqued the interest of Falcons Nation?
Yeah, it has. It's gotten it to a point where you have some people that want to go back into history and talk about the Ryan pick over Glenn Dorsey in 2008. You remember they made the massive move. You remember this. They made that massive move to get Vic here, when they did the trade with, I guess it was San Diego, right?
Right.
Now they're to a point where they just know they're going to get a new quarterback, and it's really centered on Cousins and Fields. And I understand that, but I also think Falcon fans are realistic here, and that they've kind of taken on the ones that are realistic are understanding that you, like I said earlier, you're in a bit of a risk-reward situation here. You're going to have to gamble the amount of risk to get the amount of reward, and they just want whatever happens to be successful, like we would all do. But at the same time, too, I think they also understand, too, that this one piece is a central piece into where the team could go in 24 against the difficult schedule. I mean, you look at their schedule, it's a massive upgrade in terms of competition from what they faced a year ago when they went 7-10.
All right, my brother, give you a call closer to the draft if you have the time. You're an elite college football mind for sure, and that little Drake May thing you dropped on us was polarizing and super cool. Have a beautiful day, and I really appreciate you.
Thank you, too, man. Always great to catch up. Stay safe. Be well, all right?
Likewise. Thank you. Wes Durham, Fox, 2 decades, Atlanta Falcons on some Cuz buzz. Nacho Lieber on that topic and more around the corner. It's KFAN.